I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine how much energy it has taken over all the years to edit yourself, to explain your feelings, to soften your opinions, to second guess your instincts, and to become more palatable or more acceptable for the people around you. Now imagine what your life would feel like if you didn't have to do that anymore. If you didn't have to do it. What would that feel like? Tonight, we're not talking about becoming louder. We're talking about being bold for the sake of being seen. We're talking about coming home to yourself and trusting the version of you that exists underneath the performance is already enough. This is actually some of the stuff we're talking about at the retreat as well. Authenticity isn't about self expression, it's about self permission. Self trust isn't confidence. Right? We talked about confidence. Self trust isn't necessarily confidence, it's the quiet decision to stop abandoning yourself. Self trust isn't confidence, it's the quiet decision to stop abandoning yourself when things feel uncomfortable. We abandon ourselves over and over again as soon as things get uncomfortable. And instead of stopping and pausing and reflecting and rerouting, we just stick to what we know, right? This is not about fixing you. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you that you needed to edit. What is the cost of not being yourself? Do you guys even know what the cost is of not being yourself? Do you know what the cost is? Most people don't struggle because they don't know who they are. Most people do not struggle because they don't know who they are. They struggle because they learned early on that being themselves came with consequences. You don't struggle because of who you are. You struggle because you learned early on by being yourself, it would come with consequences. Maybe you were told you were too sensitive, you were too much, you were too emotional, too intense, too quiet, too different. So you adapted over and over again. You learned how to read rooms, you learned how to shrink, you learned how to keep the peace. You learned how to keep the peace, all y'all. You learned how to keep the peace. And you learned how to earn approval. And it worked. It worked for you. Survival is expensive because every time you silence your truth to stay safe, your body keeps score. That exhaustion that you feel right now, that exhaustion, the resentment that you feel creeps in, the quiet grief that you really can't name, that's not burnout, that's self betrayal fatigue. Are you burnt out or do you have self betrayal fatigue? Ask yourself, where am I still performing instead of living? Do you have self betrayal fatigue? Are you really burnt out? Are you really burnt out? Or do you have self betrayal fatigue? Where are you performing instead of living? Not because you're fake, but because you learned it was safer that way. Authenticity isn't necessarily rebellion, it's recovery. How can you honor your truth? Your truth doesn't have to be loud to be real, it doesn't have to be announced from the rooftop. Your truth might sound like, you know what, this doesn't feel right anymore. I don't want what I used to want. I've outgrown this. I need something different. But here's the part that no one tells you: honoring your truth will disappoint people who have benefited from you not having a truth. I read it again. Honoring your truth will disappoint people who benefited from you not having one. That's where most people stop and they go back and they hide. They go back to what it was before because it was too hard. They confuse discomfort with anger. Okay, when someone has discomfort, it doesn't mean they're angry. It could mean they're angry, but we confuse discomfort with angry. We also confuse discomfort with danger. Because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean you're in danger. You confuse guilt with being wrong. You feel guilty, you feel like you're wrong. It's not true. You confuse resistance with failure. The truth does not require agreement from the other people around you. Your truth doesn't require agreement. Your truth doesn't require agreement. Nobody has to agree to your truth. No one has to accept your truth. Your truth doesn't require applause. Just because you speak your truth or you live your truth finally doesn't mean that anyone owes you a round of applause. It doesn't require applause from anyone but yourself. That's nice if you get it. Your truth doesn't always require or doesn't require explanation. The truth doesn't argue, it just is. You find yourself having to argue with someone to explain your truth. If it is your truth, you don't have to argue. It's like someone coming up to you saying you have green hair and your hair is not green, it is red. There's no point in arguing, right? If they can't see it, they can't see it. The truth doesn't argue, it just is. Ask yourself this: what truth have I been carrying quietly because I didn't want to rock the boat? What does it cost you to stay silent? It's expensive. What does it cost you to stay silent? Because suppressed truth doesn't disappear. It doesn't. Are you ready? Suppressed truth, suppressed authenticity, suppressed you being you and who you're meant to be, not everyone else's you, turns into anxiety. It turns into resentment. It turns into illness, and it turns into self-doubt. Honoring your truth isn't selfish, it's self-respect. Anybody feel that? Suppressed truth doesn't disappear. It turns into anxiety. It turns into resentment. It turns into illness. It turns into self-doubt. Because you're worried someone might be mad at you for living your truth or speaking your truth or being who you are. Not talking about, well, everybody's always been an asshole, so I'm going to be an asshole. That's just how it is. Not talking about that. What has it cost you to stay silent? Trusting your intuition. Trusting your intuition is not dramatic. It doesn't yell and it doesn't panic. It repeats itself calmly until you listen. I've been dealing with intuition lately. It sits there and taps, sits there and taps. You ignore it, sits there and taps. It repeats itself until you listen. That's something off feeling. That's not anxiety, it's information. And when you start treating all of your feelings as information, your life will change. It's not anxiety, it's information. That pull towards something you can't explain, that's not impulsive, that's alignment. That's not impulsive, that's alignment. Most people say they don't trust their intuition. The truth is, they don't trust themselves to handle the consequences of listening to it. Ew. Do you hear that? Did you guys hear that? Did you feel it? Most people say they don't trust their intuition. I don't trust myself. The truth is, they don't trust themselves to handle the consequences of listening to it. How many of you guys know something you need to do and you shut yourself down because you know there's going to be consequences when you finally make the decision? And you know what? Sometimes the consequences are all yours. Sometimes there is not consequences from other people. Sometimes it is you giving yourself consequences. Yeah. Oh, I feel it. I feel that, Elaine. Yeah, you might be wrong. But it's not your intuition that you don't trust. It's you don't trust yourself to handle the consequences of listening to what your intuition is. You can listen to the intuition, be like, yeah, okay, sure, I could do that. But can you step into to whatever you were told to do and know that you are perfectly capable of taking care of yourself and keeping yourself safe when you listen to your intuition? Because intuition often asks you to do something you really aren't wanting to do. It could ask you to walk away. It could ask you to speak up. It could ask you to choose differently. It could ask you to be okay with being misunderstood. It could ask you to be all right with being misunderstood. And that feels terrifying. Every time you ignored your gut and it was right, your body remembers. Every time you ignored your gut and it was right, your body remembers. Every time you followed it and it worked out, your nervous system remembers. Every time you pushed your stuff down and ignored it because you didn't think you could do it, your body remembers that. Every time you listened and it went well, your nervous system remembers that. Trust is built through evidence, not through affirmations, not through gratefulness journals, not through all the things we do to keep ourselves on track. Trust is built through evidence. What is you did it and it didn't go well? That I'll have to look at that. I'll have to look that one up. That's probably your nervous system as well. That's just my guess. Because your nervous system recognizes which, it recognizes. So if it didn't go well, then it recognizes the pattern of it not going well. That would be what I would bet. I'll have to look at that. Ask yourself this: where has my intuition already been right and I dismissed it? Where have I had intuition? I knew I needed to do something. I knew it, right? And I dismissed it. Yeah, I definitely think it's some form of protection with your nervous system. Yeah, recognizing patterns and past history signals it's danger, especially if something didn't go well. Yeah. Where has your intuition been right but you dismissed it? And then what would it look like to trust myself just one more step this week? Where's my intuition already been right and I dismissed it? I have those, right? We all have those. What would it look like to trust myself just one more step this week? You don't have to leap. You just have to stop overriding yourself. You override your initial intuition all the time. You have to just not override yourself. You have to go with your intuition on something. Something that's going to be really important and it is really difficult, and this could be a whole class on itself, is releasing external validation. Releasing the if I do this, someone's going to be mad at me. And it's not even always that someone is going to be mad at you, it's the fear that someone's going to be mad at you. Release external validation. External validation is seductive. I like that word. External validation is seductive. It feels like safety. It feels like belonging. It feels like certainty. Right? It feels comfortable. But it comes with a quiet cost. When approval becomes the goal, authenticity is negotiable. When approval becomes the goal, authenticity becomes negotiable. You start asking, is this okay? Is this okay to do this? Or is it okay that I did that? What will they think? How will this look? Instead of, is this true for me? Is this something I want? Is this something I want to continue? Do I have the capacity to continue doing what I'm doing? The hard truth is this: if you need permission to be yourself, you'll always belong to someone else's expectations. Do you guys hear that? If you need permission to be yourself, you will always belong to other people's expectations. They will always be your ruler. That will always be the people you look to. If you need permission to be yourself, you'll always belong to someone else's expectations. Validation can be enjoyed. It's great to have. It is. But it can't be the foundation. Right, Rebel? If you need permission to be yourself, you'll always belong to someone else's expectations. Validation can be enjoyed, but it cannot be the foundation, because if your worth depends on a response, your nervous system is never at rest. Are you hearing this for all of us? All of us? When your worth depends on response, your nervous system is never at rest. Is your nervous system ever at rest? Ask yourself this: where am I waiting to be chosen instead of choosing myself? Where am I waiting to be chosen? Why am I constantly waiting to be chosen instead of choosing myself? And again, it doesn't have to be loud. I choose myself. I'm not choosing you, you losers. That's not it, right? Where am I waiting to be chosen instead of choosing myself? Letting go of external validation does not mean you stop caring about other people. And it doesn't mean that the caring of what other people think completely goes away, right? You still may carry that. But it means you stop abandoning yourself to be liked and accepted. You stop abandoning yourself. You stop abandoning yourself. Taking up space does not mean you have to be loud. It means being honest. It means not apologizing for your feelings. It doesn't mean that you don't owe people an apology when you're an asshole. Okay? I'm just going to say that. If you're being an ass and you're being rude to someone, I don't care if it's your feelings talking or not, you may owe someone an apology. That's real, right? Adulting is what that is. Realizing you're using your emotions as leverage to just be an ass. That's what the world is run on right now. It means not apologizing for your feelings, not apologizing because it made you sad or that it made you angry. Like, I'm not going to apologize for my anger, but I'm also not going to treat you, take the anger or take it out on you because I'm angry. Taking up space doesn't mean being loud. It means being honest. It means not apologizing for your feelings, not shrinking your needs. You do not have to explain your boundaries. Do you know that? You can. I mean, if you care about people, right? I'm not a fan of boundaries being given with not like, did I do something wrong? Right? If you care about someone, I am full on believe that you have a conversation, right? You don't even have to say, like, this is my boundary, this is what it is. Like, you can have a conversation. There are sometimes you have to have hard boundaries and you have to have them quick, right? But it means not explaining your boundaries. And it also means not editing your truth. And it also means not getting mad at someone else because their truth isn't your truth. No one else's truth is my truth. No one else has been through the same things that I've been through. No one's been through the same things Elaine has been through. No one's been through the same things Cheek has been through. Everybody's truth is different. Stop being pissed off at people because their truth is not the same as your truth. We're humans. We all have different truths. Your presence is not a burden, your emotions are not too much, and your existence doesn't require justification. Tonight isn't about perfection, it's about permission to trust yourself, to honor your truth, release the need to be validated, and live from alignment instead of fear. There's going to be fear when you're doing something, even that's in alignment. There's fear because, like Elaine said, if something doesn't work, your nervous system is like, oh, remember when you did that last time? It didn't work. Maybe you shouldn't do it again. You know you messed up last time. Are you sure you want to handle? Are you sure you want to do that again? Gosh, you might get hurt. You might get upset again. Let's just not do that. That's the voice inside our head, right? You're not the same person as you were before. The voice is speaking on past experiences, trying to keep you safe. Let me go back to the beginning and read a couple things just for anyone who wasn't in here, and then I'll give you guys some mantras. Imagine how much energy it's taken over the years to edit yourself, to soften your opinions, to explain your feelings, and second guess your instincts to become more acceptable and palatable for someone else. Imagine what your life would feel like if you didn't have to do that anymore. What would that feel like? What would that feel like? Imagine. Stop abandoning yourself when you feel uncomfortable. You have to stop abandoning yourself. I promise you, there's been things that I've done this week and thought about over the past couple weeks that for me to it makes me uncomfortable. My nervous system says, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this with everything that I have. But intuition says, do this. Intuition says, do this. I trust myself more than I fear being misunderstood. I trust myself more than I fear being misunderstood. My truth is valid even when it's inconvenient. Like, when is our truth ever convenient? Oh, it's convenient time. Let me tell you my truth. It's not, right? It's just not. My truth is valid even when it's inconvenient. I'm allowed to take up space as I am. I no longer am abandoning myself for approval. I'm not abandoning myself.